Joining us now is Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is the chair of the Rules Committee in the United States Senate, one of the two committees that oversaw today's hearing. Senator Klobuchar, I know it's been a really long day. Thanks for being here tonight.
Rachel, thanks for focusing on this, and thanks for including Captain Mendoza's testimony at the beginning. That was so important.
I can't hear her.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Oh, now I'm lost in space and nobody can hear me at all. All right, this is one of those moments when I'm going to call an audible. We are going to ask Senator Klobuchar to stand by. These are our technical difficulties, I believe, not hers. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Senator Amy Klobuchar, also Senator Peters, the two senators who chaired this committee to this hearing today on the attack on January 6th. We'll be right back. I believe that we have tracked down, tackled, and tickled to death our technical gremlins. And that will mean that I'm able to hear Senator Amy Klobuchar, the chair of the Senate Rules Committee, when we bring her on now. If we're not, I'm out of here. Forget it. Senator Klobuchar, thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Very good. I was just saying earlier, I was so glad you led with Captain Mendoza's testimony, which was so important to the story, all the frontline officers. But, you know, your point is what I really wanted to stress was that we need solutions here. You know, you can just throw popcorn at the screen all you want at these hearings, but if we don't get solutions out of it, we really haven't accomplished anything. And despite Ron Johnson's craziness and despite his literally refusal to believe what everyone knows, that there was an armed insurrection at the Capitol, most of the senators treated the witnesses with respect. They asked their questions, and Gary Peters, who I know you're going to hear from today, and I both decided we want this to be a bipartisan, constructive hearing, and it was.
Senator, one of the things that I found not baffling, but I think sort of increasingly frustrating was the ongoing discussions, and in some cases contentious discussions, about who had what intelligence in advance of January 6th and to what degree there were specific warnings that this could potentially be a violent event. I know that there's a lot to sort out there, but I thought you bottom-lined it very well by saying, listen, this whatever exactly happened here between different agencies and between different intelligence silos here and things falling in between groups and people not finding out what they're supposed to find out. The bottom line here is that this is not a system that is set up to anticipate and handle a crisis. And I do feel like we're sort of splitting hairs here in terms of how violent everybody knew things were going to be. Looking at public source intelligence, I think a lot of people paying any amount of attention thought there was a good chance for violence. Are we getting too bogged down into who got what report when?
Questions from senators, and I think we want to get the facts so we can improve that process. And the two main things were January 3rd, they had an internal report with the Capitol Police that they should have listened to that reported that thousands of people were descending on Washington. And then the big one was January 5th, the night before, FBI emails from their Norfolk office. They email a report about that there is evidence that there are people showing up who want to go to war, who want to invade the Capitol. And we just find out today that the chief only found out about it in the last few days, that the sergeant at arms hadn't seen it. You can't just press send at night, but they also on their end had to have a way to see these reports. So that's concerning. But here's the things we talked about. One, better process on the intelligence, obviously. Two, as you point out, why did the National Guard take so long will be our #1 question of the Department of Defense at our hearing next week. And the third thing is that this police chief reports to what is called a Capitol Police Board, which is 3 people, 2 of whom are the sergeant at arms. So I want you to picture they're guarding their members, trying to get them to secure locations. The police chief calls them because of this process that's in place to see if he can call in the National Guard. I think anyone that heard that, Republican, Democrat, anyone watching knows that we have to change that process. So there are some concrete things we can do in addition to figuring out how we use the National Guard going forward. They were at the Capitol for years after 9/11 in a smart way, how we change the security while still preserving the public nature of the Capitol. When we are through this pandemic, Rachel, we want student groups to come and we want veterans groups and people to visit the Capitol. So we cannot lose the public nature of the Capitol, but it's not going to be business as usual when it comes to the security.
I know that that decision-making process at the Pentagon, that call with request for help from the National Guard and the muddled and slow response to that, as you mentioned, is going to be the subject of the next hearing that you are going to convene on this right away next week. And I'm really glad to hear that. I have to ask, in terms of the investigation that you all have done thus far and what you've learned, including at today's hearing, is there any indication, is there any reason to worry that there may have been essentially influence on the Pentagon side in terms of slowing down the response, in terms of not allowing National Guard troops to come in and backstop the police who were getting so overrun? Was there any effort to try to let this riot run its course in a way that that is going to be not just a tragedy, but a scandal?
I don't know the answer to that question. I hope that that would not be true. What we do know, and I think it was Mitch McConnell that called President Trump's actions that day disgraceful and a dereliction of duty. We know that he wasn't making those calls to bring the National Guard in, that it was Vice President Pence, that it was the leaders of Congress on both sides of the aisle. And so we have no idea what actually went into that delay. One thing I would add is, if you want to get the National Guard deployed, some of this should have also occurred the night before, the day before that, and that also was messed up on many sides. So there's so many things that we can do. And we all saw the horror, as pointed out by Jamie Raskin and the House managers. That was a big part of the historical record, that impeachment hearing. But now it's on us to improve the security at the Capitol and to figure out exactly what went wrong. And I was actually pleased that we got these witnesses, 3 of whom, as you pointed out, Rachel, have resigned from their positions in the wake of what happened, to come voluntarily and answer questions in a respectful manner. I don't think anyone thought we were going to pull it off, but we believe that the public needed to know what happened. And the only way this is helpful for people is if we go forward with solutions, and that's the next step.
On that chain of command question and the decision-making question there, do you anticipate that you'll ask Vice President Pence or his staff to come in and testify about their role at any point?
Right now, we're focused on the FBI, Homeland Security, and the Defense Department because they have not come in and testified about this yet. This was the first hearing in the Senate after the impeachment trial. So that's what we're focused on. I think part of what, and I spent that evening with Vice President Pence because, as Senator Blunt pointed out at the hearing today, at 4 in the morning, it was just Vice President Pence and Senator Blunt and myself walking with those 2 young women with the mahogany box with the ballots over to the House where Speaker Pelosi was waiting so we could finish our jobs. And I've talked to him about this directly, but haven't asked him that. I think we have to look at these in a lot of different tracks. Our job right now is to look at the domestic terrorism and figure out the solutions. Judiciary Committee will be going in that in a big way, and Christopher Wray will be testifying next week before the Judiciary Committee. And then finally, major investigations going on in the Justice Department. Already people charged, and I think you heard Merrick Garland speak heartfully about how important this is to him. And all of this, by the way, is going on while we must do our other work, get the people confirmed, and also for Joe Biden's cabinet, and also see that light at the end of the tunnel, getting through this pandemic. And we had a very solemn ceremony today for the 500,000 Americans that have lost their lives. And I am so proud that this new administration, it was just announced, up 70% from when Joe Biden came in with the number of the vaccines that they've sent out to the states. There's a lot going on here, as you point out, every night, but we still have to make sure that this temple of democracy is safe.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, the chair of the Rules Committee in the Senate that convened this first hearing today on the events of 1/6 at the Capitol. Senator, thank you for your time tonight. Thanks again for your forbearance with our gremlins there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we've got much more ahead tonight. As I mentioned, the head of this Homeland Security Committee, Gary Peters, is also going to be joining us. Lots more still to come. Stay with us.